Hailing frequencies open. I'm Mr. Smock. Today we are talking a movie review for Maze Runner The Death Cure. So, as you might see, I find myself the property of WCKD, apparently pronounced Wicked, short for World Catastrophe Kill Zone Department.
Catastrophe Kill Zone Department.
It will probably be a tactical division on starships. I'm here today with HayashiForest, a blue-haired human alien girl.
皆さんこんにちは、HayashiForest です。I'm an outpost. Hi everyone, I'm HayashiForest. As you can see here, I'm cosplaying as Miku Hatsune, which is a Vocaloid. I was basically following cosplayers around playing the pianica or the melodica, so yeah.
Where can we catch that video?
You can catch it on my Facebook page, which is on HayashiForest, or on my Instagram. You can catch some photos of some events that I go to. Follow my geek trail on either my Facebook page or on my Instagram. Yeah.
So pleased to have you here, HayashiForest.
Thank you, Commander.
We are now here to talk about Maze Runner The Death Cure, which is the final movie in the Maze Runner trilogy. Maze Runner, as you may be aware, is a young adult franchise beginning with a series of books written by James Dashner. Then it was adapted to the first Maze Runner movie in the year 2014. In that movie, we are introduced to a mysterious glade, or think of it as a plot of green park, surrounded by a maze. And this glade is populated by teenage boys, of which a new candidate is introduced every month, labeled as a greenie until the point they remember their real names. So the movie begins with Thomas being the latest greenie introduced to the glade, and we basically see the adventures through his eyes. Along with the other gladers, the more significant ones are Newt, Frypan, Winston, Gally, Albie, and Chuck. The first female glader, Teresa, is introduced, and approximately around that time, all hell breaks loose in the glade. But thanks to Thomas, his ingenuity, courage, and leadership, a bunch of gladers do escape the glade. And at the very end, they find that they are subjects of a huge experiment conducted by Wicked. That's the WCKD Wicked. That leads on to the sequel movie, which is Maze Runner Scorch Trials, released in 2015, where our protagonist and his team of gladers progress to survival through the Scorch. The Scorch is the post-apocalyptic future whereby much of the earth has been scorched to dry desert, and they are then also introduced to the results of the reason why the world is in catastrophe. A super virus with no cure by the name of the Flare is transforming humans into zombies yet again. It's another zombie flick in disguise. So, with 75% or more of the world's population transformed to roaming zombies, the survivors are in the fight of finding a cure to this affliction. But at the very end, they are assaulted by a wicked tactical team, and due to betrayal of Teresa, many of the so-called gladers who were rescued from various mazes across the world are recaptured by Wicked and brought back for further experimentation. Thomas gets away with most of his gang of gladers except for Minho, which is captured by Wicked evil Chief Jensen, which looks suspiciously like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. Anyway, they are shipped off, and Thomas is then hell-bent to rescue Minho. Hence sets the scene for this third and final movie, The Death Cure. The Death Cure reaches our cinemas on 25th of January. It is actually a much delayed movie meant to have released a year earlier, but due to injuries sustained by lead actor Dylan O'Brien, the movie has been shifted approximately 1 year back. Otherwise, it would have been a 2017 release rather than 2018 release, which is somewhat of a lengthy period between the second movie and now the final movie. So we got to attend an early screening for Maze Runner The Death Cure. Thanks to 20th Century Fox and GSC Cinemas, a superfan screening was conducted on the 13th of January, which is almost 2 weeks before the actual general release of the movie. The screening was preceded by a party for fans, whereby about 200 guests got to engage a number of thematic activities associated to the world of Maze Runner. In addition to that, there was also the chance to be afflicted with a flare, but then drink the Death Cure thereafter, and hence we did not have zombie apocalypse happen. Find out more of those photos on our Facebook page, which is Outpost Productions. So now, getting to the crux of this discussion, we are going to talk about Maze Runner, The Death Cure, and what happens to conclude this trilogy. So it's no secret from all the trailers that the movie begins with Thomas and gang, which at this point comprises Newt, Fried Hand, Brenda, which is a new character introduced in Scotch Trials, who somewhat replaces Teresa as the male-female lead after Teresa's apparent betrayal to the Gladius to Wicked. So along with them, we also have the so-called adults of the what you call rebel resistance, which is involving Lawrence and Vince. And therefore the adventure unfolds and eventually leads them to apparently the last city of mankind, which of course is ruled by Wicked and enclosed by so-called impenetrable walls to prevent the spread of the zombie infection or the flare virus. So this last city is the stronghold of Wicked, and where they are in the process of undergoing all methods and means, ruthless as it may be, to find a cure to this disease which is wiping out humanity. So HayashiForest, what were your general impressions of the movie?
Well, as you said, the original Maze Runner franchise actually came from a series of young adult novel books, and I've not read the books myself, and having to watch the first two movies and now following by this one, I would say it's actually quite exciting. I did enjoy it despite not having read the books, and there was a considerable gap from the first movie to the one now, and yet I felt that I didn't miss anything at all. So yeah.
I think the environment that all three movies present very different facets of this post-apocalyptic dystopian future, and I consider that the main attraction which perhaps hooked up viewers or fans from the franchise is the maze itself in the first movie or the first book, and which is, I think, possibly nothing much similar has been seen before in cinema. I mean, certainly mazes have represented in cinema, but they are usually one part of a movie, not the entire movie itself based on the maze.
Well,
but that being said, thereafter, the maze, it's a main component of the first movie, and it's not so much then the sequels also present a maze, but different challenges for our protagonists.
well, yeah, I would like to think of it as it's like Labyrinth meet with Lord of the Flies, meet with, I don't know, I'm thinking of Attack of Titans, probably is due to the strong walls that's keeping people in and the grade. So I believe what you say is correct. I mean, we have not actually seen something like this in cinema before, and the way it's presented is absolutely mesmerizing and thrilling to the eyes as well. So yeah.
So, as mentioned, the first movie presents the maze, the second movie presents the scorch, which is basically survival in the desert. While this third movie now shows the city, which is the future.
It's more of a sci-fi, white coats and laboratories and futuristic, pristine, clean cities in the desert.
Yes, yet it's not the far future as seen from my timeline with flying shuttles, cars or transporters. It is still a very much city which can be visualized, rooted on the present day Earth.
That's right.
With a few small technological tweaks here and there, but it can still imagine that this is a city which could exist in the present, except for the maze.
Yeah.
The maze is, I feel, engineering feat by itself that sort of may not be terribly realistic by today's standards. Because the maze is not static, as you may recall, the maze actually morphs and changes. And not to mention, as we learned in the second movie, the glade is just one maze, and there are many mazes built as experimentation for Wicked. Understanding the main purpose of the maze was to force a group of youngsters into the rigors of survival, and along that process they would develop certain immunities to the flare.
That's right, and to also observe how they would evolve with the virus, intact, and then we get to see the conclusion of it in the third movie.
So while the books may have developed the backstory towards the maze in much more detail than what could be presented in the movie, perhaps going into a small spoiler territory of this third movie, you actually see one of the gladers subjected to tests in the Wicked lab, and then they extract this apparent cure from some sort of gland in the body.
That's right. I don't know how they do it, but they did it when it's blue.
Yes. But other than that, you could trace see that in that lab experiment, they could extract this biological cure. So hence the resources in building huge multiple mazes in various parts of the world, and they are huge. And the experiment lasted 3 years. Whereas in this third movie, let's chuck our glader into a lab, put him in a VR experience and extract some cure.
Yeah.
So that's maybe some parts of the movie that did not make so much scientific or logic, as I may put it, sense. But what else did not agree with you in this movie?
In general, I do find it to be a very plot-driven sort of movie, meaning we don't really get to see a lot of character development that's going on. I mean, I would certainly like to see more going with the main protagonist, which is Thomas, and of course with Teresa as well. But we don't really get to see that because it's moving at a very, very fast pace, and I believe that there is a lot to cover in the books, but couldn't possibly be done so in the movie adaptation. I mean, I would certainly like to see more backstory with Dr. Ava Page and Jensen, because there is a spoilers alert, there is a scene between the two, and I believe that played quite a main role in moving the story and the plot forward, but we didn't really get to see anything much deeper than that. So yeah, and there are a lot of things that are left unexplained. But don't get me wrong, it does not ruin the entire experience, but it does leave, well, at least me, as member of the audience who never read the books before, it does leave me very curious and intrigued to know more about it and to dive deeper into the world of Maze Runners by my own initiative rather than depending on what I see from the movies alone.
That being said though, this final chapter of the movie trilogy does run 2.5 hours long.
It is very long, yeah.
Some other reviewers have commented that the length is somewhat deterrent and thereby not a plus point.
Well,
it's not really a con either, but even with that runtime and trying to cram all these little details, there are still parts that perhaps, like you said, not so well explained.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is long for 2.5 hours, I did admit, but I did not feel the time passing. I'm really honest about this. I was sitting there just watching, and each scene, they were exciting enough to keep me engaged throughout. So for those who did not watch even the first movie or the second one, I believe there is something for everyone to enjoy in the movie. Like, yeah, I didn't feel the time passing. I mean, I was just living every moment of it. So, that's just me.
Other pros? Do you have other pros for the movie?
Well, what else do I like about it? Well, very good acting, excellent acting by Dylan O'Brien, and of course the other actor. When we have like Thomas Sangster who does Newt, they really brought the character to life. And even if you don't see much backstory to each of them, but they certainly did have their own. They did brought their own personality and character to the scene, and it's really fun to see each of the characters standing out in their own way. And the action scenes are really a plus point. There's something for everyone in the third movie. I mean, we have close hand combat, there's lots of running going on, of course there's the cranks, which is the zombie scene. So yeah, there's something for everyone.
For fans of zombie,
yes. Fans of zombies, fan of chases and chasing vehicles and special effects and things like that. So yeah.
for what's perhaps not presented as the top tier, super huge budget movies, which is normally associated with the Hollywood summer blockbusters, this movie does have very crisp, very clear visual effects, which let's say does not look fake.
No, it doesn't look fake at all. It doesn't look fake at all. I mean, it's even the last city stronghold by Wicked. I mean, that was just gorgeous. I mean, I really like the parts of the city in Cinemas. It's the last city in the world, and you get to live a regular life. So that's one of the stunning visuals that actually caught me. And then the stark contrast of what the dilapidated environment outside the walls. I mean, what do you think?
I think it shows that when you're on the verge of extinction, you would go to very desperate means to ensure the survival of the race. And that's actually a moral dilemma which is presented in this movie, which is obviously wicked. As ruthless as they may seem, they are looking for a cure for this against the flare, which is wiping out humanity. On the other end, you have Thomas, who is friends, who is of course against Wicked, more so though to save their friends and other victims of experimentation. But that also presents that, do you save these few people or do you save humanity? And it seems like that debate could have carried more weight in this movie. I do recommend though that viewers who have not followed Star Trek do watch Star Trek 2 The Wrath of Khan, of which my mentor Mr. Spock very profoundly does says the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few or the one. It's only logical. That being said,
Smock.
I may not fully agree with the decisions of Thomas and friends. It is more important perhaps to save humanity, and a few have to be sacrificed along the way.
Yeah. So that would be your stance on the moral dilemma, that it's better to sacrifice a few to save more. It's actually an interesting psychology question when you think about it. Well, I guess my take on it would be, considering that these are immunes and you have this new virus that's infesting and wiping out the world, wouldn't that be a case of survival of the fittest for a small group who's able to evolve and withstand and be immune to the virus? So these are the ones with the higher chances of survival. Therefore, these are the ones that will continue to sustain the human race, and that has always been the case with human civilization. You have the few that migrates or move from one place to another, and they will start off a settlement there and then begin to flourish and grow. So perhaps that's one way to look at it as well.
Or migrate to another planet.
Yeah, and that's why we are terraforming.
And wait for the Vulcans to come and solve your medical problems.
That's right.
There's this person called Khan. If you toss him in and extract his blood, he will solve every disease known to man.
Oh, that would be a great, interesting experiment. You actually put Khan in the world of Maze Runner, and that would probably be a solution to the flare.
Unfortunately, that is the Kelvin timeline, and I disavow all association with it. Moving on, do you have any last words for this movie to our viewers, Maze Runner: The Death Cure?
Definitely, yes. I would definitely recommend the movie for anyone. It's sci-fi, it's full of action-packed, and if you're a fan of zombies, it's something that you want to check out. But even if you aren't a fan of zombies, then there's always something that you can find in the movie to like. But do bear in mind that it is 2.5 hours long, and I would strongly suggest for you to watch at least the first movie, and the second one acts more as a bridge, especially with the introduction of the new characters in the third one, because the third one wraps everything up and concludes it really nicely. And I won't say any spoilers, but the movie did end on a bittersweet note for me, and it did end, and I felt quite satisfied after watching it, and that's all I'm going to say for now.
Who were your favorite characters that you enjoyed eyeballing?
Favorite characters? Of course, my favorite will be Brenda, because she really, she's a really spunky character in the entire movie. I enjoy watching her action scenes, and as far as perhaps this is just me, but I would totally ship Thomas and Brenda, if you know that. Ship means you would like to put them in like a Thomas X Brenda sort of way. Yeah.
I'm sure there will be much fan fiction as well as fan art which will go
yes.
towards that direction. Just go ahead and Google.
That's right.
Prano, what would you rate this movie out of 10? And what would you recommend to our viewers?
And on a scale of 10, I would give Maze Runner a 7.5. What I really enjoyed about it is the entire idea, the entire concept of putting the immunes in the maze and having this virus going around spreading this epidemic to the world. Although it may not be new, but the entire delivery of it is fresh, and of course there's lots of young guys there, so what's not to like?
That being said, from a geek girl.
Hashtag Girl Geek Squeak.
Basically, if you are a fan of geek pop culture, this movie is worth checking out.
Issues as well, yeah.
We are also a fan of young adult books and movie franchises. This is among one of the better ones. Thank goodness they did not drag out this last movie into 2 parts, or the last book into 2 parts. So, Maze Runner The Death Cure will be in cinemas 25th of January in Malaysia. As recommended by HayashiForest, you should watch the 2 preceding movies. There is a movie marathon available from GSC Cinemas, but you can also pick out the 2 DVDs of the 2 preceding movies for cheap at selected speedy videos. If you are lucky enough, you will find them at 9 ringgit when they are sold for 3 DVDs for 27 ringgit, or the Blu-rays at 2 discs for 55 ringgit. At the Maze Runner party, we were also presented with some Vader survival gear, of which this is
a paracord, and it's upside down. There's a yeah.
Always useful to climb the maze. We were also given what looks like a toothbrush.
Yeah, I have no idea what that is actually.
It is a USB light source. Stick it into a power bank or USB port and it will light your way through the maze.
Okay.
So we would like to give away one of this. If you have found this valuable review, please like and comment below, and we may randomly choose a favorite to give you this USB Maze Runner light.
It helps to light your way here. It's a survivor gear.
Well, as it says, and now the property of Wicked.
Wicked is good. Wicked is good!
Yes, Wicked is good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for watching. If you have liked what we say, please follow our channel, My Sci-Fi Fan Outpost, and also check out HayashiForest on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
#HayashiForest.